You know exactly what you need to do and still keep getting in your own way. You can have the strategy, bro. You can have the tools. You can even have the opportunity sitting right there in front of you. But for some reason, you keep procrastinating, you keep overthinking, you keep breaking promises to yourself. After this happens enough times, you stop questioning the strategy and start questioning yourself. You start saying, maybe I'm lazy, maybe I'm not disciplined enough, maybe I'm just not capable of building the life I want. But what if the problem is not lack of discipline, bro? What if the part of you that keeps pulling you back is trying to protect you from rejection, judgment, disappointment, or another failure? I know what that feels like because I once bought a course that I believed could help me change my life, and I left it untouched for 6 months. The information was right there. The strategy was right there, but information was never the real problem. I was afraid of what fully trying and failing might prove about me. In this video, I want to help you recognize the difference between a knowledge gap and an internal block. I also want to help you understand what your pattern may be protecting you from, what may actually be keeping you stuck, and the action you need to take next. Because if you keep treating an emotional wound like a strategy problem, no new plan is going to save you. So the first thing we're going to go into today is called the pain. You know what to do, but you aren't doing it. That's the pain that we feel, bro. We get mad at ourselves, we get angry, we get upset, we get frustrated. We talk negatively to ourselves because we know what we got to do, but we won't take that step. We won't act. We won't do the actions that are necessary. Sometimes it's just hitting fucking publish on that video, sending that pitch to your next potential client, submitting the application, making a call, setting a boundary, or just having the conversation. Problem is not that you cannot see the next step. You know what to do. The problem is that every time you approach that step, you pull back. Here's what the cycle looks like, bro. You create a plan, you feel motivated temporarily, you reach an uncomfortable action, then you procrastinate and overthink, and then you feel shame and you look for another strategy, and the cycle begins again. Correct me if I'm wrong. And the longer this continues, the more personal it becomes. You stop saying the strategy didn't work and you start saying something must be wrong with me. And then you begin identifying with the pattern. I'm lazy. I'm inconsistent. I always get in my way. Maybe I don't want it badly enough. Maybe I'm not built for this. These are the kind of things that you tell yourself, right? Because you can't do the fucking thing. And you start repeatedly breaking promise to yourself. And that alone slowly damages your self-trust. But here's the thing, bro. Sometimes it ain't the strategy. It ain't more information that you actually need. Sometimes you genuinely just need rest. But then there's also other scenarios where if you clearly know what to do and repeatedly avoid the same type of action, there's something deeper that's influencing you. And this is where people get caught in the strategy trap. I've been there. I moved on from one strategy to the next, one plan to the next, but I never addressed the internal stuff. I never looked at the fact that I believed that I was a failure. I couldn't face that pain. I couldn't face these beliefs that I had about myself, that I felt like I disappointed my parents. At one point, I felt like I was nothing. And coming from the past that I did of being an alcoholic and just doing not much with my life, all the beliefs that were created in that period were affecting me heavily when I was in the strategy trap. What is a strategy trap? It's when you only believe that the strategy is necessary. But here's the thing. The strategy only answers, what should I do? The strategy doesn't always answer, why can't I make myself do it? Big difference. So we can learn. And we can learn and we can learn. I've been there, bro. Audiobook after audiobook, but I couldn't take the action. Sometimes it could feel productive, right? You're learning and you're going through all this, but the action isn't being applied. But you feel like you're making progress. You feel like you're getting somewhere, but sometimes it's actually avoidance. You're so afraid to fail. You're so afraid to see that maybe I could prove this belief that I'm a failure to be true. And that's why you fear success. That's why you fear even trying, because you don't even want to risk that. And that's how you live a mediocre life. So sometimes overlearning can be avoidance, because I need you to act as much as you learn, if not more. And I've been there, bro. Buying another course, it feels safer than using the course you already own. Doing another program. And again, you got to trust yourself with this shit, because maybe that next course is going to help you tremendously. It depends where you're at. But if you're just learning and intaking and absorbing and not doing shit with it, that's when there's a problem. You have to take action on what you already know. There's moments where I'll learn something from my mentor, from a program that I'm in, and I will implement that immediately after I learn it, if not the same day. Act quick, bro. You can even be watching a motivational video that as well feels safer than taking the action, because action could lead to rejection, and rejection could lead to you going into those limiting beliefs or painful beliefs that you don't want to believe to be true. And they're not. That's the thing. Behind those shadows, behind that pain that you're running from, opposite side, if you let yourself go into them, on the opposite side, once you walk through those shadows, you find the truth. You're not weak, you're strong. You're not powerless, you're powerful. You're not dumb, you're intelligent. But you gotta do the inner work. You gotta face yourself in that way. And probably just hearing me that maybe makes you want to turn off this video, but that was the only way I was able to get ahead in my life. Also, sometimes we rewrite the plan, because that also feels safer than allowing the world to just judge your work. That's why it's hard to hit publish on a video. When we plan so much, it allows us to feel in control. And I'm telling you, very little of my plans have gone to plan. I get to the destination, but in very different ways. We're not that smart, bro. We're not that smart. And then the thing with execution, it requires you to risk something. You risk rejection. You risk failure. You risk criticism, embarrassment, disappointment, being misunderstood, being seen before you feel ready. That can be scary. And you get to a point where you may not be preparing for your future anymore, bro. You may be hiding from it through preparation. So I'm a fan of doing the prep work. But when you're in there a little too long, you got to be honest with yourself as to why you are. Comfortable activity is not always meaningful progress. You got to stretch yourself, bro. You got to get, as corny or cheesy as it sounds, you got to get yourself outside of the comfort zone. So I ask you, so you can start getting out of your comfort zone, are you learning something you genuinely need? Or are you consuming more information because taking action feels emotionally safe? Are you protecting yourself from future failures, bro? Because the hard truth is that you cannot outlearn a pattern you refuse to confront. You're going to keep repeating it again and again and again. You got to stop the cycle. It's up to you. I can't do that shit for you. I wish I could. I can't do that for you. Just like I had to save myself. You have to save yourself. And the issue is you can't out-strategize a belief that convinces you to retreat every time you get close to what you want. One step forward, 3 steps back. You got to keep pushing forward, bro. You got to keep taking the next steps. You can get to the point where you get momentum and the ball is rolling. And you're not always having to fucking push and push because you keep restarting and keep having to start again. And I'm not saying that strategy is bad. It'll show you the road, but it can't heal the part of you that is afraid to walk down it. There's something internally blocking you. You got to heal that. You got to go into that. That pain is going to set you free, but you got to make the decision to set yourself free. And I didn't even understand this, dude. I didn't even understand all this stuff that I'm sharing with you today until I watched 6 months pass by while an opportunity sat directly in front of me. For 6 months, I avoided this course that I bought. I was ready to do what I'm doing now full time. I had just lost my business, my personal training studio business, and I was ready for the next chapter of my life. Throughout the time that I was a trainer and running the studio there, I was going deeper into this personal development work and sharing and creating content. And there was a part of me that's like, I would love to do this. And I invested about $2,000 into all this. $1,000 for the course, $1,000 for the laptop. And I did nothing with the course for 6 months. I was all hyped up. I was ready and then nothing. And even after overcoming that, there were so many beliefs that I had about myself and so much shame that remained because I was beating myself up about the work that I didn't do. And I was still beating myself up from the personal training business that collapsed. But what happened is that experience reinforced the painful story that I was a failure and I couldn't make anything work. I was just repeating my own trauma in a way, repeating my own beliefs. And the reason I even bought this course is because I believed it could help me move forward. Again, I was genuinely excited when I bought it. I had the information, I had the opportunity, the desire to change, but I did nothing with it for 6 months. I was giving so many excuses. The typical stuff. I'll start tomorrow. I need more time. I need to feel motivated. I'll start when life calms down. I wanted to make sure I did it correctly. But underneath all those excuses, it's just the fear repeating the past, the fear of having another thing not work out. And I would do anything at that time, I would have done anything to avoid that pain because the course represented another opportunity to try. And when you're still damaged from the the past failures and you identify with them. This is what happens, bro. No course, no strategy is going to work until you address that. There's a step before the course. There's a step before the strategy. Every client that I've coached, they knew what to do, but it was themselves that they couldn't get past. They couldn't forgive themselves for the fuck ups in the past, for the mess ups, or for not being where they wanted to be. They always felt behind. They always felt like they were trying to catch up. And I made them feel small. I made them feel inferior. And that was what was running their business. How do you build off that? When you feel small, you feel less than, right? How do you build a successful business when you don't address that? And again, the only way to address it is to go into it. And a lot of times that stems from childhood trauma. The little versions of themselves when they were kids believed that they weren't good enough. And honestly, it was probably one of their parents that made them believe that. It was for me. Getting bad grades in school made me feel like an idiot, like I wasn't going to be anything. And my parents were so afraid of that because I was getting D's and F's and I just didn't give a fuck about school. And I started to identify with that, but it didn't mean anything. That's the funny part. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to build something of my own. I didn't want a regular life. I didn't even know that was the route that I was heading at the time. But when I did go back into that course 6 months later, I was okay with failing again. I knew it was going to be a possibility, but I didn't let it stop me. Being honest, the honest belief under the avoidance, why I stepped away from it, it was not only because, again, I had unresolved shit that I had to go into, but I was thinking to myself, if I didn't fully try, I could continue believing that I had potential. And if I gave everything and I still failed, I would fear it would confirm every negative belief I had about myself. I was running from myself in many ways, and that's why I wasn't ready. But you get to a point where you change your perspective around failure because you failed so many times and you realize it's silly, bro. It's silly to identify with it. It means nothing. It just means you got to course correct. Or it means what you make it mean. I changed the meaning of failure. And what do you know? I was ready to go in. I was ready to attack that course. And 3 months later, I signed my first coaching client. It was an amazing feeling, but it was the inner shit that was getting in the way. I had to address it. And at that time, not trying became a way of protecting my identity. I would even call myself lazy and undisciplined, bro. I was like, why can't you just do this shit? And again, shaming myself because it made me withdraw even further. But the turning point came when I stopped asking, what is wrong with me? And I began asking, what am I protecting myself from? So we're all protecting ourselves from something. For me, it was the fear of failure. I didn't want to fail again after the personal training studio. I was devastated after I left for 3 weeks. I didn't do anything. I was just drinking, eating like shit. I didn't care about my life. I thought I was a loser. I thought because I failed at this one thing, my whole life was done. And it's crazy to even think that now. It's made up, bro. But once I confronted my shame, my fear, my low self-worth, my limiting beliefs underneath the behavior of procrastination. And I started having honest conversations with myself about what failure meant to me. I stopped treating failure as proof of my identity. I stopped treating it as proof that I wasn't going to amount to much in life. I began implementing the information I already possessed. I learned a lot, bro. But I didn't do anything with it. But once I started implementing it and I started taking the actions that I was avoiding, again, 3 months later, I landed my first coaching client. And I want to be clear, bro. That healing, it didn't magically produce a client. Internal work helped me stop allowing the fear that prevented the actions to produce that result. The course didn't change. Strategy didn't change. The relationship with myself changed. What I believed about myself changed. What I believed was fucking possible for me changed. I remember telling myself, see how far you can take it, Roy. Just go find out. And I did. And I am. I remember getting so mad at myself because I couldn't, the first course that I wanted to make, I couldn't. I kept putting it off. And one day I got so mad, I'm like, just one module, just work on the first module, Roy. And I was angry. I remember I had my head against the wall and I'm like, okay, just one module. That's it. And I sat my ass down and started writing. I completed that course, bro. But throughout that time, there was a voice in me saying I couldn't do it. And at the time, I would use anger to challenge that. I didn't even know it. When I would hear that voice telling me I couldn't do it, I would just say, watch me. And I'd go and I'd fucking do it anyways. And even though I started to heal some of the stuff that I hadn't gone into, the healing didn't replace the action, bro. The healing made a different action possible. Now, I'll end today's video with this. There's a difference between a knowledge gap and an internal block. Here are the signs of a knowledge gap. You generally cannot identify the next step. You're missing a specific skill, answer, resource, or piece of guidance. Key is once you receive that missing information, You're willing to implement it. Your obstacle becomes smaller as your understanding increases. You're not simply relearning information you already understand. You're doing something with it. And the sign of an internal block is when you can clearly explain what you need to do next. You repeatedly search information you already know. You keep perfecting a plan that is already good enough. It doesn't have to be the best plan in the world, just good enough, bro. Or you stay busy with small tasks while avoiding one action that could create meaningful progress. What makes the money needle move forward? There's only a couple things that you have to do that really push your business or your dream forward. Another thing that signals there's an internal block is you wait for confidence. You wait for certainty. You wait for motivation, the perfect timing. You're constantly changing directions whenever execution becomes uncomfortable. You excuse change, but the avoided action remains the same. You experience strong emotional resistance around being seen, judged, rejected, or disappointed. You know the action is necessary, but something inside you keeps treating it like a threat. Now, again, there's an important distinction between a knowledge gap and an internal block. Know that they can exist at the same time, bro. And when that happens, you may need to learn something new while also healing the fear preventing you from using what you learned. And that's why I say you cannot call every delay an emotional wound. Sometimes you need rest. Sometimes the plan is unclear. Sometimes the strategy genuinely needs to change. The key is to recognize whether more information actually creates action. So I'll leave you with this diagnostic question I like to ask. If you were guaranteed that you could not fail, nobody would judge you, and everything would eventually work out, what action would you take today? An answer immediately enters your mind. You may not have an information problem. You probably know what to do, bro. It's probably more of an emotional block surrounding the action. Take the step. What is the next logical step, bro? It's one of the first things my first mentor ever taught me. What's the next logical step? That'll tell you everything. You want to gain a following on YouTube? Shit, I got to make a YouTube channel. Okay. Do I got a phone? Get to record? Maybe I just need a mic? When I bought that program, that was the next logical step. And then the next logical step was buying the laptop. And I'm still using it to this day. Just follow the road, bro. The next logical step is always so obvious. It doesn't have to be complicated. Maybe it's learning more about a certain expertise in your field. It's all I've ever focused on, and it's gotten me very far. Just the next step. If you made it this far, I want to thank you for watching today's video. I sincerely hope that helped you. And bro, I hope you realize that needing to heal doesn't mean you're broken. It means a part of you may still be responding to your future through pain from your past. The pattern may have protected you during the earlier season, but it can't be allowed to keep deciding who you become. Your procrastination is not your identity. The fear is not proof that you are incapable. And the promises you broke yesterday do not prevent you from keeping one today. So answer the questions I've already asked you. Identify the action you keep avoiding. Be honest about what you are protecting yourself from. Then complete one action within the next 24 hours. Just one, bro. Let that become the first piece of evidence that the old pain no longer gets to make every decision for you. And if you're tired of feeling stuck, playing small, and questioning what is possible for your life, go ahead and download my free audio training, Limitless. It's down below in the description. Inside, you'll learn how to break through self-imposed limitations, expand your vision, and step into the version of yourself that is capable of building the business, life, dream, and future you truly want. You can download Limitless through the link in the description again, and subscribe to the channel and walk this journey with me, bro. I would love to have us building together. Also know, I'm not speaking to you as somebody who has everything figured out. I'm still building. I'm still healing. I'm still becoming the person my dream requires me to be. But I know that you are so much more than the patterns you have been repeating. Again, bro, heal what needs to be healed. Take the action your future requires. And no matter what, not give up on yourself. I'll see you in the next video.